Hello, hello, hello. Happy Sunday, beautiful people. It is so very good to be here with you as we gather together to celebrate the magnificence and significance of the presence and power of God operating in, through, and as us. Let us begin as we always do with prayer, and I'm going to ground us in a reading today from the Daily Word. The word today is prosperity.
Yes.
And the affirmation, I focus on the goodness of God and know prosperity. Sometimes I may worry, wondering if I will have enough of what I need. If thoughts of lack or limitation arise, I lift my thoughts from the things of the world to the truth of God. I focus my mind on the richness of divine life within me. I feel calm and assured as I remember I live in an abundant universe and am heir to everything God is. Even when my worldly fortunes shift, I am abundant in spirit. As I align my thinking with divine mind and prayer, I become receptive to divine ideas that prosper me. I claim prosperity and feel empowered as I do. My prosperity stems from my oneness with God. I count my blessings, feel grateful, and trust with understanding faith I have enough. And the scripture, they feast on the abundance of your house, and you give them drink from the river of your delights. Psalm 36:8. Again, the affirmation, I focus on the goodness of God and know prosperity. And so from this place of awareness, I invite you to close your eyes and take a breath in and breathe out. And we take a conscious breath in and a conscious breath out. And again, with intention, we breathe in. And with attention, we breathe out. We are here now. We are here now. We are here now. The past is gone. The future is yet to come. And we are here now in the present moment. And the present moment is the point of power. And right here and right now, we put the focus of our attention on power. There is one mind, one power, one presence, one good, one love, one joy that is working in all, through all, and as all. There is one divine life, divine intelligence. That life, that intelligence, that wisdom is Mother, Father, God. And it is your life now. It is my life now. It is all life now. It is our life now. We are one with God and one of God. Nothing can change that. Nothing can alter that. Nothing can hinder that. Nothing can separate you from the love that God is and the love that you are. We are individualized, particularized expressions of the one. As we recognize and know the truth of our oneness, as we recognize and know the truth of God, that God is always right here, right now, that it neither comes nor goes, but we have the opportunity again and again and again to know again that God is, to recognize that God is, to speak the word that God is, and we are one with God. And so it is out of this awareness, this foundational truth that God is, and we are one with it and one of it, that I speak this word in faith and expectancy. Right here and now, we know and speak the word of prosperity in, through, and as our lives. We declare here and now, I am prosperous. Wherever you are, right here and right now, speak that word in faith. I am prosperous. I am prosperous. We speak and know this word in faith and in gratitude, for it is the truth of life. For as we look about the world, we look about nature and we see the lavishness of nature. We see the beauty of nature. We see the abundance of nature. We see the overflow of nature. And we know that just as nature is one with God, so we are one with God. And it is natural to be abundant. It is natural to experience lavishness. It is natural to be in prosperity. Prosperity is the way. Prosperity is the way. Prosperity is the way. Well-being is the way. Well-being is the way. Well-being is the way. And so we choose right here and now to delve deeper into the reality that we are well. We choose right here and now to delve deeper into the knowing that well-being abounds, and it is the truth of our very life. We open up our minds, we open up our hearts, we open up our very lives, and we accept. We lift up our cups of acceptance to the divine goodness, to the divine givingness, to the divine bounty that is God, and we receive. From this place of awareness, I now release this prayer. I release it with confidence. I release it with joy. I release it with expectancy. I release it with absolute knowing who and what God is, and knowing who and what we are one with. This power, this presence, this infinite, omnipotent, unlimited power and presence that is God within us. Thank you, God, in, through, and as us, for happiness, success, radiant health, prosperity, and money. For this truth, we are so grateful. We release this prayer with joy and thanksgiving, and we say amen.
Amen.
Ashe.
Ashe.
And so it is.
So it is.
And so it is. And so it must be.
Yes.
So it must be. Well, hello again. Happy Sunday, beautiful people. It is so very good to be here with each and every one of you. It is so good to be here back in New York as we are streaming to each and every one of you. It is so wonderful. We came home and all things were wonderful and in place and safe. We came home to a brand new bathroom that's amazing and wonderful and lovely. And it's bringing us joy and inspiring new ideas and new decor. And so it's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing to be alive. And it's a wonderful thing to continue to delve into the reality and the truth of the magnificence and significance of the presence and power of God in, through, and as us. If you are a first-time guest, hello, welcome. We're so happy that someone or something brought you here to share in with us in our weekend service here on Sunday. And we're confident that something will be done, something will be said that will support you in thriving in your life and having an empowered week and an empowered life. If you would love to do so, we encourage you to, in the comments, let us know where you're connecting in from. You can even let us know how you got here to CSC and to the weekend service, but that really matters not, and it's not a requirement. You don't have to post in the comments. Again, we're confident that something will be done or said that will support you in thriving and living an empowered life. Now, what you see on your screen is how you access your digital connection card. This is your way to stay in touch with us and for us to stay in touch with you. And so all you have to do is text welcome to that number you see on your screen, 347-472-1078. No additional information is needed. Just text the word welcome. You don't have to say hello. You don't have to add any emojis. We see it sometimes. We know you may just be enjoying being here and you want to share that with us. All good. But for this, please just text the word welcome to the number on your screen and you'll receive an automated reply with a link. That link takes you to the digital connection card. If for some reason that doesn't work, or if you happen to be outside of the United States, you can actually look here in the post here on YouTube or Facebook and you'll see that link is available. Click that link. It takes you to the digital connection card. Enter the information. We just ask for your name and your email address being the most important. And once you've submitted that information, you'll receive another text that says you're all set. And indeed, at that point, you are all set. You'll be on our mailing list. You'll receive our weekly correspondence. As you'll see, as we're in the midst of our masterclass, there are things that we're sending out, reflection questions and reviews to support you in deepening your study and deepening your integration of the text that we're studying. And of course, any other announcements and good things that we need to share from CSC, you will receive that. But again, we're so happy that you're here. Sit back and receive, because there is something powerful that will take place as a result of you being here. So now is a wonderful opportunity for us to move into our news and updates so that we can tap into the meditation and to this week's class. As I just shared, we are in Masterclass mode, and this year, the Truth Sunday Masterclass, we are studying It's Up to You by Ernest Holmes. If you do not already have the book, please get the book. It's available in print and digital formats. Whichever format feels good for you is all good. It's still early in the class. We're just in week 2, so you have plenty of time to go back and watch last week's class and be tapped in and ready as we continue to move forward with week 2. It is Pride Month, and we are celebrating Pride. We asked and we listened last week. I asked if anyone would be interested in Pride t-shirts, CSC Pride t-shirts. And so we have those t-shirts available. They are in our shop. Just go to celebrationsc.org/shop, and you can get either one of these t-shirts in whichever color or vibe that you want. We have some unisex designs as well. So whatever vibe you're looking for, however you want to show your pride and also represent CSC, by all means, you can do that. We will not be holding the God Talk next Sunday, so please adjust your calendars accordingly. We will resume the God Talk again next month in July. For those who do not know, particularly for our first-time guests, the God Talk is your opportunity to ask questions. We hold a free forum every month that is designed to support you in really understanding the metaphysical laws and principles that we teach. We recognize that many times in spiritual communities, you do not have the opportunity to ask questions. And we believe that it's important that you have that opportunity. It's held each month via Zoom. And so I encourage you, if you're hearing about this for the first time and this sounds interesting, be prepared to be with us again in July on the third Sunday. It happens every third Sunday for the God Talk. We highlight a series each month because, of course, the teachings of CSC now go back 11 years, and we have so many powerful series that many of you will be coming to for the very first time. And so we wanted to bring your attention to this series, which is available on our YouTube channel. You'll see it on the main page of our channel. Stay Woke, The Path of Self-Realization. This goes back to 2017, long before woke was co-opted by the right and became such a divisive term. We took that term and delved deeply into what it means to actually be awake to the truth of who and what you are, to realize the truth of yourself, using the life and teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda and the wonderful text, The Autobiography of a Yogi. Highly encourage you to tap into this series. It is powerful, it's illuminating, and as always, it is transformative. Every Wednesday, we gather together for the Momentum Prayer Call at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is your opportunity to deepen your experience with prayer, to use prayer to begin your day as we're in the middle of the week on Wednesday. It is a wonderful way to start the day with intention. We know that prayer is a definite movement of mind in a definite direction to accomplish a definite end or a definite purpose, a definite outcome, a definite goal, a definite desire. And so as we use the power of affirmative prayer, we know the truth for ourselves. We know the truth for every soul that is connected to CSC in any way. We know the truth for our nation and for our world. We encourage you to join us. It's interesting as I think about this, because I say it every Wednesday morning. We know this truth for our nation and for our world. How many of you are actually knowing the truth for your nation and for your world? I know that there are many that are posting and lamenting about what's going on in our nation and our world. But are you knowing the truth for it? Well, guess what? At CSC, we've been knowing the truth for our nation and for our world for a very long time. And so I encourage you to tap into this vibration as you have concerns about what's happening in the world. You must turn to the words of truth. You must turn to a reality that you want to see in the world. It's the only way that we're ever going to bring it about. Let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me. And so this is what we're doing through the power of prayer. Again, knowing the truth for ourselves, affirming the truth, allowing beautiful and powerful things to happen in, through, and as our lives individually. Also, knowing that same truth for our family, our CSC family and community around the world, and knowing the truth for our nation and for our world. You see the information on your screen. Just call the number, enter the access code, and wait. The prayer time, along with the reading, only takes about 10 minutes, and then we're on with our day. Now, if you're unable to make it at that time, we actually record the prayer every week, and so you can tap into the vibration of prayer at any time. We encourage you. This is available 24/7, and we know that many of you do. When you just need to hear the words of truth, when you want to tap into the vibration of prayer, you can call that number, enter the access code, and wait, and the most recent prayer will play. Now, if you have a prayer request, you can send that prayer request to prayerchampions@celebrationsc.org. We hold the entire community in our hearts and our minds, always knowing and seeing the very best for each and every one of you. And we recognize that you may have a prayer request. It may even be a request on behalf of someone else. By all means, send that to prayerchampions@celebrationsc.org, and we will know the truth with and for them. We also encourage you that as your prayers are answered, as you're receiving and experiencing miracles, love stories, and prosperity reports, to send those to prayerchampions@celebrationsc.org. We love to hear that. We love to know that. As we have been in the vibration of healing Sunday prayers, we are hearing so many wonderful things that are happening as a result of the powerful words of prayer. And so we love to hear from you. You can feel free to send those prayer prosperity reports in to that email. And as I just mentioned, every fourth Sunday is Healing Sunday. We have set aside this Sunday for a specific healing treatment, for a specific healing affirmative prayer. We recognize that there are many within our community that are in need of prayer and desire prayer around healing of any sort, healing of your mind, healing of your body, healing of your finances, healing of your relationships, whatever it may be. And we are really excited about the intentionality around this, and of course already seeing, as it should be, the fruits and the results of the prayer, which simply encourage us to continue, to continue to speak the words of prayer, as so many beautiful people are experiencing healing in, through, and as their lives. That happens every fourth Sunday. We encourage you to be there and to invite someone to tap into that vibration with us. And that concludes our news and updates for this Sunday, which means it is now time for the meditation experience, and we will be led lovingly by PY as we go within.
Yes, it is time for the meditation experience. I love the prayer this morning, well-being abounds, well-being abounds. And that also means if well-being abounds, that light, joy, and peace abound. They abide in us. They are ever present in us. We are always on the receiving end of this good thing called joy and peace and love and prosperity. And the reason why the word abound, and more importantly, the word abide, is important this month is because sometimes we may not feel like we are in light and joy and peace. But when we return to our sense of self, when we come back to the truth, light, joy, and peace are always there. That means it constantly is there. It's constantly available. So wherever you are in your experience, it's okay if it's not a great one, because there's something holding you. The light of God is within you. The peace and the joy of God is within you. It never, ever goes away. And so we get to bring ourselves back to this realization. We get to tap into this realization right here and now. That light and joy and peace abide in me and in you. Now, it didn't say light or joy or peace. There was an and connecting all three of those things. All of those things are available. You don't have to sacrifice your peace for your joy, your light for your joy, your light for your peace. They're all there, available now. And so we take time every Sunday to go within, because we enjoy teaching. We enjoy providing you with the knowledge of all of these sacred texts. But until you feel God alive and well within you, all of that is just good information. You need to have a direct experience of God for yourself. And so let's do that. Let's have that direct experience. It's not hard. It's as easy as closing your eyes, taking the breath, and settling into the energy, reminding yourself of the truth that light and joy and peace abide in you now. So, let's prepare ourselves for meditation, shall we? Go ahead and look around the room. Notice where you are. I know where I am. But are you present? Or are you in the past, even if that was 5 minutes ago? Are you in the future worried about some outcome? When you're in those places, you may not be able to access the light and the joy and the peace that's always available. And now that you know you're present, plant the palms on the tops of the thighs. And maybe you wiggle the toes or raise the heels. Stop that movement and allow the feet to just rest on the floor. Allow the ears to align over the shoulders, shoulders over hips. And from this place of ease and presence and safety, allow your eyelids to close. And that simple act of closing the eyelids sends a direct signal to the brain. Oh, it's time to relax and go within. And that simple act of closing the eyelids takes our focus off of the external and brings it internal. And let's just notice the breath for a few rounds, right where it is. Now, whether the breath appears to be deep or shallow, let's not judge the breath. Let's just be in gratitude that the breath is moving. Gratitude that the breath is signaling the body it can relax even more. Gratitude that we are all together with our focus on the internal. Beautiful, everyone. Now, let's take conscious control of the breath and send that breath and our focus of attention deep into the low belly. And we're going to inhale for a count of 4 and hold for a count of 4. Exhale for a count of 4 and then just relax in this light joy and peace for a count of 4. Together, inhale, expand the low belly. Hold for 4. And open the mouth, relax the jaw, sigh it out, count of 4. And relax. Again, inhale, expand the low belly, drop the breath nice and deep. And hold. And sigh it out. Allow yourself to hear the exhale. And relax. In through the low belly, up through the rib cage. So we've dropped the breath deep. We're allowing the breath to rise and take up more space in the body. Hold it there. And sigh it out. And rest. Again, in through the low belly, up through the rib cage, allowing that breath to rise and expand the sides and the front and the back of the body. Hold it there. And sigh it out. And enjoy the silence. In through the low belly, up through the rib cage, now allowing the breath to rise. We're connecting low breath, mid breath to high breath. One smooth flow of energy and breath. Hold it there. And sigh it out. And rest. Let's practice a few rounds of that deep breath. All the way in and up, but this time let's slow it down even more. Inhaling for a count of 6 through the nostrils, holding, and then exhaling through the nostrils for a count of 6. And then relaxing in the joy and the peace of God for 6. Together, inhale hold, and slowing that breath down, exhaling through the nostrils. And relaxing. Let's practice a few rounds of that deep breath, that full, complete breath, that present breath. Last round. Beautiful, everyone. Now let's take this energy that we've created. Let's take this knowing that we're all a part of, that light and joy and peace abide in us. And let's let the rest of our body fully experience it. Take your focus and your attention and your energy into the feet. Maybe you raise the heels or wiggle the toes. That way you know you're present and your body and your mind are connected. Stop the movement. Relax the feet. Energy gathered underneath the soles of the feet. We are grounded and connected, allowing it to flow up through the soles across the ankles. Give yourself permission. Relax the ankles. Energy flows across the shins and the calves. They too are ready to relax. Relax the shins and the calves. Energy flows across the knees, the symbol of our flexibility, our knees, the symbol of our forgiveness of self and others, the knees. Go ahead and relax into the knowingness that light and joy and peace flow across the knees now. The energy cannot be stopped. It is ready to flow across the thighs and the glutes and the hamstrings. Go ahead and relax the thighs, the glutes, the hamstrings. In fact, go ahead and surrender the lower half of your body to the seat where you are. This symbol of being supported means that you can let go and feel the light and the joy and the peace. And let that energy now flow from the base of the spine and make its way up. As the Kundalini rises, that energy, see it in your mind, feel it in your body. Inhaling, exhaling, and allowing the energy to flow, the light to flow, the joy to flow, the peace to flow. Inhaling, exhaling, and allowing. You feel it, I feel it, it wants to rise, making its way up, and up, and up, and up, and out the crown of our heads. Not only does light, joy, and peace abide in us, it emanates from us. Let that energy flow back down through the crown, across the third eye, down the throat, across the shoulders, down the arms, and out the fingertips. Go ahead and scan your body. Notice if there's any tension. Can you relax behind the eyelids a little more, or relax the forehead a little more? If there's any tension in the belly, just breathe and relax. As we scan our body, we make no judgment. We just send the love where it is needed. We send the light where it is needed, the joy where it is needed, the peace where it is needed. From this place of being an open channel for God, we prepare for our silent time. If the mind wanders, it is okay. Please be kind to your wandering mind. And when you become aware, bring it back to the affirmative thought. Light, joy, and peace abide in me. Light, joy, and peace abide in you. I will monitor the time. You take the inward journey, bringing yourself back when you become aware and resting in the silence when you're ready. Light, joy, and peace abide in us now. With our eyelids still closed, I want to share some thoughts from A Course in Miracles with you. It's something that we at CFC has said for a long time, that your sinlessness is guaranteed by God. And over this must be repeated until it is accepted. It is true. Your sinlessness is guaranteed by God. Nothing can touch it or change what God created eternal. And as an eternal being, that means that light and joy and peace abide in you. Let's bring that light, joy, and peace back with us now. From this place of openness and gentleness and settledness, plant the palms on the tops of the thighs. Inhale. Draw the shoulders up by the ears. Exhale as we release the shoulder blades nice and easy down and back. Again, inhale up. Exhale as we release the shoulder blades back and down. One more time. Inhale up. Exhale, releasing the shoulder blades back and down. Bring the palms together at heart center. And if you are able, bow the chin towards the fingertips, feeling that opening at the base of the spine and all the way from the neck all the way down. And just imagining that light and joy and peace flowing on the spine. And from this place of aligned, open, and peaceful position, allow the eyelids to open. Find a gentle gaze. Inhale. Raise the chin, raise the gaze. Exhale the breath. Maintain the peace. Namaste.
Yes, yes. Namaste. Thank you, PY.
You're welcome.
So we are in week 2 of our class. If you don't already know, we are studying It's Up to You, written by Ernest Holmes, and we are grateful and thankful to be able to do this again for another year. I trust that you're already experiencing some powerful awarenesses and a powerful healing as a result. One of the things that I want to remind you of is that as you're reading the text at home, when you're doing your homework assignment, questions may come up. If you have questions, send those questions to Truth Sunday at celebrationsc.org. You will see that throughout the stream. You'll see it on your screen, and we're doing our best to incorporate those questions each week. So we received some questions over the past week, so we're going to tap into those before we get started with the next chapter. And so the first question we received is related to one of the final lines at the end of chapter 1. Page 12 reads, "No one has ever tried and failed in a conscious cooperation with the universe itself." And the question, can we ever fail if during the process we learn so much, discover more about ourselves, and become wiser? And this is a good question, and I understand the heart of where the question is coming from. And my answer may feel a little harsh, but can we ever really fail? Yes. Now, there's a difference between failing and being a failure.
Yes.
You are never a failure. We are never a failure. That's the antithesis of the truth of who and what you are. But do we fail? Do we make mistakes? So one of the things, just if we look at the context of what Ernest Holmes was writing about hold on, let me move this stuff so I can see what I'm working with. What Ernest Holmes was writing about in the preceding paragraphs, and this is very important, right? Because a lot of times we can zoom in on a particular line and forget what was actually talked about before. So when he talks about many people harboring the fear of punishment, shall we be rewarded for our virtues and punished for our mistakes? I believe that we shall be, but by reward and punishment, I do not mean anything other than that sin is a mistake and punishment a consequence. So is there a consequence, right? Is there a cause and effect? Is there an outcome? Absolutely. And that's all he's talking about when he says no one has ever failed. Now, one of the other things I think that's interesting about this question is this question holds a deep assumption that is very rarely true for most people. Can we ever fail if during the process we learn so much, discover more about ourselves, and become wiser? Most people do not learn so much, discover more about themselves, or become wiser after an unwanted experience or after making mistakes. And why do I say that? One, having worked with so many people for so long, I know this to be true. We talk about the patterns, most of us repeat the patterns, right? I know there are plenty of things in my life that I continue to repeat the pattern over and over again. Even if I had this idea of I'm not a failure, right? The truth is, how do we know that we've learned? Because we have a different outcome.
Yes.
So you haven't learned because you looked at the thing and it's like, oh, I can do something differently. That's nice. That's an awareness. But you have not learned it until there is a different outcome. We can go ahead.
And again, we're saying this so that we become clear about whatever subconscious ideas we all hold about failure. We are not saying you're a failure. We're saying that everyone makes mistakes, has errors. It's to be corrected, as the Course would say.
Yes.
It's not any kind of indictment on you personally. And so if you just talk about, can we really ever fail, you're kind of missing the point of the possibility to choose again and choose differently. Because otherwise you're just like, oh, we all fail.
Right.
And we're going to learn. And that's true, you will learn. But if you choose again and choose differently, then that rate of learning will be different.
Right.
That type of learning will be different.
Right.
And so this is a great question for everyone, because a lot of people don't take chances, don't go after, don't pursue, don't follow divine guidance because they're afraid to fail. And this is not what he's saying. The fear of failure is the problem.
Right.
Not the failure.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Not the fail. It's
Yeah.
the fear of failure.
Right. Right. And so I think an analogy I use as PY and I were talking about this was, right, just thinking about baking a cake. And y'all know I use food analogies a lot, right, metaphors. But yes, I mean, we can call it a mistake. We can call it an unwanted outcome. But you're making a cake or you're trying to make a recipe, and until it's delicious, it's a failure. And so you actually haven't proven that you've learned, or you haven't discovered what the issue was that you needed to change until you've actually changed it and have a different outcome. You haven't become wiser until the outcome, the pound cake, or we've been eating a lot of rum cake. So the rum cake is what it
Was
needs-
intended to be.
Intended to be.
Yeah.
Right? And so to say you failed, I love what you just said, PY. It's not an indictment, right? It doesn't mean that you're wrong. It doesn't mean that you're bad. It's just a mistake. That's all. That's all. And that's all sin actually means. The word sin is just miss the mark. It's a failure. And that's good information, because the other part that we have to understand, we talk about this idea that we're playing the game of life. A few years back, we did Florence Scovel Shinn, The Game of Life, and how to play it, right? And so that's part of the thing, right, that we're experimenting, we're practicing, and we become aware. But again, awareness is just the first step. Many people are aware in the process of, oh, I could do something differently.
Right.
And many people live in the awareness.
Right.
Learning is a changed outcome.
And because many people get comfortable in just the awareness, this is how I am. But my question is this who you want to be?
Right. Right.
Right? And if that's the case, if you're now aware, and this is not who you want to be, then you can choose something different.
Right.
And choose it consistently enough that it becomes a new way of being. Not just once,
Absolutely.
right? But consistently.
Absolutely. All right. So we have a couple more questions. This next question: is it possible to harbor fears of which you are unaware? The short answer is yes, right? And so part of what this chapter, Escape to Life, Chapter 1, is really all about is supporting us in making the unconscious conscious.
Yes.
Right? Supporting us in making what we were unaware. And I'm sure for most of us reading this chapter, you became aware of internal fears that you were not aware of, because Holmes so beautifully articulates them in a way to support us in thinking about them, bringing them to the surface, making us aware so that we can actually release them. So yes, everyone harbors fears of which they are unaware. What we do as metaphysicians is we learn how to look at the mirror of life, which is showing us what is going on in our unconscious mind, what is going on in that space where we're unaware. Because the unconscious is that which is habitual and automatic. We don't think about it.
Right.
And so here is the opportunity. Once we then become aware, once we make the unconscious conscious, then we have the opportunity to make those changes, right? We see the unwanted. Okay, well, what's the path to the wanted?
Absolutely. And here's the other thing about fears. You might be unaware, or you might even be aware, but you don't know the complete impact of those fears on your life. We watched Caesar Milan, Dog Whisperer, the other day, and this woman had experienced trauma when she was a young child with dogs. Now, you would say, well, why would she get a dog if she had trauma? Well, she was unaware of how deep and intense that fear was in her life until this interaction with her own dog that forced her to change. So she had a fear, and she was unaware of how deep and how much it impacted her life. And so we can have fears that we're unaware of. We can have fears that we think we know all that it exists, and then it takes us to another level so that we can heal.
Yeah. Powerful. And so the next two questions are somewhat interrelated. We'll tap into the first one. How do I lovingly strengthen my inner conviction that I trust the integrity of the universe and believe that sooner or later all things will be made right? All right, so that's the question. Okay? What's interesting is in the second part, when the noise of my human experience seems so much louder than my blossoming spiritual one. And the reason why I stopped at will be made right, and that is actually the question, because one of the things that's interesting about this question is in asking the question, a limitation was introduced, which then illuminates, it makes the unconscious conscious, right? This very previous question about what we're unaware. What the person that asked this question, what you may not be aware of is that there's a dominant pattern of thought in your mind that the noise of your human experience is louder and more powerful than the spiritual experience.
Yeah.
And so really in the asking of the question of the how do I lovingly strengthen my inner conviction, again, what you're really saying is the noise of the world is stronger, louder, and more pervasive than any type of inner conviction could possibly be. And so that your answer is provided in the question that actually the how is to change your thought pattern around the so-called external world, right? The noise of the human experience, right? The how is to, I'm reminded, and I quote this often on Reverend Eloise, where she says, don't tell your God about your big problem. Tell your problem about your big God. Right? And so that's the opportunity is to shift the focus of your awareness and to shift where you understand power actually is. In this question, what you're saying to us is that the external is powerful, is all powerful, right? And the spiritual path is all about the internal is all powerful, which is literally true, right? Because the internal is from which anything external ever comes into being.
It's interesting, too, that when you say, how do I do this? Consistently focusing on the internal. Consistently. It doesn't mean that you're going to get it perfect every time. It doesn't mean that things don't happen, even in our experience, that we're like, dag. But it means that we are quick enough to bring it back to the truth. So consistently, you're not judging your spiritual path as not strong enough. You're just becoming stronger in your ability to come back to it. Right? You're consistent. That's what you do. You become consistent no matter what is happening.
Yes. I'm reminded at the beginning of this year, my biggest dream, I started that sermon with the idea of you have an infinite, unlimited, omnipotent power operating in, through, and as you, right? That you have to have that understanding of this power and that it is and that it's within you. And it's bigger, greater, more pervasive than anything in the external world, right? Because we always talk about it. Come back to your God concept. Come back to your God concept, right? Because that is what's going to remind you that you are bigger than your problems. You are bigger than your circumstances. And there's a power and presence within you that has the power to overcome them. So anytime that you come into an experience of what you call the noise of your human experience, turn to the power within you.
Instantly,
Instantly,
it
right.
can't be 2 days later. Now, as you grow in your practice and awareness of the spiritual truth, it gets easier and easier to turn back to it. It gets easier and easier to recognize, oh, wait, I'm externally focused right now. Because you don't feel good. right? That's an indicator in the human experience. If I don't feel good about what I'm seeing, then I've given something power over me.
Yeah.
And I need to turn within.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so the second question I say is related because it's another how with a limitation introduced. How do I gently and effectively change the trajectory of the last third of my life when my feeling that I am not afraid of death does not seem to be enough when death is defined by Holmes to include fear of lack in all its guises? Okay, so there's a lot of intellectualizing and analyzing here and comparison, right? So it's like, well, when Ernest Holmes is defining the fear of death and really clarifying it in this beautiful way, right? So again, we're introducing another limitation. So the question is, how do I gently and effectively change the trajectory of the last third of my life? And so the opportunity is one to tap into and delve into an understanding of what Holmes is saying, right? It's not about enoughness, right? Does not seem to be enough. Again, there's another comparison. But what it is, again, I think he's clarifying what actually is tapped into the fear of death. But you don't have to call it the fear of death, right? The other fear, the fears of lack that he named, right, in that text, you can become aware that where are those fears of lack present in my life. And so then the opportunity is, well, we're going to work to change that, right? So that's the process of what the study is, right? And so the hows will be answered as we move forward. But of course, wherever there is lack, there must be a turning to abundance. Wherever there is seemingly a thought and experience of lack, we must turn to giving. Wherever there is seemingly a fear and a thought of lack, we must also turn to accepting or receiving, right? That going back to our last series, right? Understanding that God is life. To what extent are we fully embracing and accepting that? And guess what? There's never a limit on that, right? As long as we live in this human experience, we will constantly be expanding ourselves as a receptacle to receive and experience more life, more abundance, more joy, more good, etc. So the how is really going back to PY about that consistency. And so it's the same thing, a consistency around receiving. There's something that I've been affirming for the last few months, right? Today, my cup is full and running over, right? I bring my mind to that each and every day to put the focus of my attention, the start of my day, on more than enough, right? Moving myself away from the fear of lack. And then there's another affirmation, it's Raymond Charles Barker. Today, and I referred to it in the prayer today. Today, I lift up my cup of acceptance to the divine bounty, right? And of course, this is then what Psalms 23 is rooted in, right? The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. So it's important to then deliberately and specifically infuse your life, infuse your day, and infuse your mind with the very opposite of lack.
Absolutely. And I love how he defines all of these things as really a fear of lack. And so that might be good information for us to remember. We have all kinds of fears, but they're a lack of something present or not present in our lives. And that's important. So it's not just fear of one thing. Yeah. It all comes back to a fear of not enoughness, not having enough, of some kind of lack.
Yeah, yeah. And so the one thing I think that's beautiful as we read those questions, and I hope everyone can hear, I trust that everyone can hear that oftentimes we're asking these questions, and in the question is a limitation, right? Is a sense of limitation that you may not have been aware of, right? And so as we talk about this idea of are there fears that we can be unaware of? Absolutely, right? There are patterns of thought that we're unaware of. And so it's beautiful. This is why we encourage your questions, because as you articulate these questions, you're illuminating the very thing that needs to be healed. This is why we can always say every prayer is answered, right? Because what's happening is either the channel is completely clear and open and the thing that you desire, the thing that you speak, comes forth easily and effortlessly, or you become aware of what's blocking it, right? It's that simple, right? If you had unknowingly, if the stopper was in the sink and you didn't realize it, and you're running the water, and all of a sudden you're seeing it's filling up, and you're like, wait, what's going on? I wasn't trying to do that. What would you do? Oh, you're like, oh, there's the stopper in the sink, and you would remove it.
Yes.
That's all we're doing in our spiritual life. That's literally all we're doing. And that's why it's the gift of that, your prayers being answered, the awareness that there's a stopper in the sink. You didn't want it to be there. You wanted the water to flow through the drain, and so you remove it.
I love that analogy. I love that example, because when you hear the word unaware, then everybody gets a little freaked out. Oh, there's these things I'm unaware of. I got to fix them. I got to do it. But you're not worried all the time that the sink is going to overflow.
Right.
You just notice if the stopper is there and you remove it.
Absolutely.
So don't spend your time just obsessing about what you're unaware of.
Right.
That will not help you. It'll just make life harder.
Yes, yes.
But we know that there's a way to fix anything. Remove the stopper when we become aware.
Yes, yes. Absolutely, absolutely. And so we begin with chapter 2, Successful Living. As a
Great
reminder,
chapter.
what I will be doing, as I always do, because this text tends to always use the masculine when referring to humanity, I will, in real time make those changes. So if you see that on the page, I may be saying something different than what's on the page. One of the oddest quirks that we discover in human nature is to find someone desiring to be radiantly well, gloriously happy, abundantly supplied, well loved, and fully expressed, and yet avoiding any use of the word spiritual and shunning any possible thought that they may desire to be known as spiritual. The fact that one is anxious to secure material fortune but not bring themselves to connect it with anything spiritual may be a holdover from the old belief that to desire the good things of life, while not exactly sinful, was yet an unworthy ideal. Many wince at the mention of God in connection with supply, as if such a thought were blasphemous. You find yourself in this opening paragraph. By spirituality, we mean a constructive atmosphere of goodness, truth, beauty, harmony, and reality. Such an atmosphere comes in such degree as one comes to believe, to understand, and make use of the invisible presence, the invisible intelligence, which is what we mean when we speak of the Spirit or God. That's important, right? So
Very.
just as we talk about new thought and the consciousness and what it is that we're teaching, it's important that when we talk about what it is that we're doing or making use of, or what we mean by God, we're talking about this invisible presence, the invisible intelligence. That is who and what God is. To be spiritually minded is to be whole-minded. To be whole-minded is to be holy. It means that we realize the complete unity of God and God's creation. If we therefore demand from ourselves freely, openly, and emphatically a spiritual reaction to success, it means that we understand the complete unity and close relationship of all life and can the more fully express prosperity and success. What do we mean by success? A life that is complete. This does not necessarily mean the acquisition of $1 million. One might be a millionaire and at the same time a dismal failure. Hello, somebody.
Yep.
Equally, a person might have a very few dollars and be a rich person because they would be satisfied, happy, and complete. So this is very important. This is one of the reasons, and it's inspired by our series in Reverend Ike this year, that you hear me closing my prayers. Thank you, God, in us for happiness, success, radiant health, prosperity, and money. Understanding what it means to be whole-minded, understanding what this unity of success actually means, right? This does not mean $1 million, right? But it's about this idea of satisfaction, happiness, and completion.
And that's an individual determination.
Yeah, yeah.
If you are basing your success on what you see other people doing or supposedly having, then you'll never arrive at it. It has to be something that matters to you.
Yep.
It is not something that you have to make sure other people get. It is what is your definition of success.
Yep, yep. Success means that which is necessary to maintain a balance and equilibrium. Subjectively, it means a state of well-being, a sense of happiness. Objectively, an environment that reflects this inner state of consciousness. This is why we say we do not teach the prosperity gospel. We teach the gospel of well-being. Gospel, of course, means good news. The good news of well-being. And that's exactly what success is. a state of well-being, a sense of happiness, objectively, an environment that reflects this inner state of consciousness. A successful person will be at peace because they are at peace, and will be happy. And because they are happy, they will be surrounded by happy circumstances. They will have a sufficient consciousness of substance in their environment, which will reflect a degree of supply sufficient to enable them to have those things which make for a fuller life, whether we call it much or little.
Yes, this is important.
A successful person will have such a consciousness of the unity of good that this consciousness will find its objective correspondence in friendship, in love, in human interest. The word poverty usually conveys to our minds the idea of money shortage, but actually the word means the lack of any good thing.
I hope this opens it up for people to understand what poverty, because you can be driving the Benz and still be
living in poverty
and living in poverty.
Yes,
right.
Poverty is the very antithesis of abundance, and abundance of good is necessary to human happiness. It is only as we experience good that God is expressed through us. The more completely we realize good in all of its manifold expressions of health, wealth, and happiness, the more completely do we express God. That is, the more does God become personified through us. And so this is also one of the other things. Many of you are down on yourselves and crying, poor me, because you do not have the money that you think you need to have, right? But it is absolutely impossible. It is absolutely possible to tap into this awareness and this vibration of health and happiness and wealth, and understanding what that means. Right? This is your opportunity. And so then it becomes personified through you when you're in the consciousness of well-being and knowing that is. If God could know anything of lack or limitation of any kind, lack of money, lack of health, lack of intelligence, lack of friends, then lack would be an eternal verity, for God is changeless. Y'all remember the sermon from last month? Same today, yesterday, today, and forevermore?
This is so good. Please make sure you highlight this in your text.
What God knows today, God has always known and will know throughout eternity. But God is always one. A house divided against itself, not a house divided against itself. And God can never know anything unlike itself. So we need not be concerned about lack ever becoming a reality, capital R, reality.
As in all of existence.
Exactly. There is nothing in the universe that limits us or that would or could desire to limit us.
Highlight this. You're not being tested. Any of those things that we've been trained to think about God. This is an opportunity to wipe the slate clean in your God consciousness and replace it with some of this new understanding.
The idea that God is trying our souls to see whether or not we can take it, so to speak, is nonsense. It is born in ignorance, in superstition, in the nighttime of the soul, and has nothing to do with spiritual realization. I talk about this often. Last week, I referred to the problematic interpretations of the story of Job. But of course, we have a sermon series. Go back to it. This is not a test. Right? We've been teaching this for many, many, many years. God is not trying our souls.
Right.
That is such a liberating understanding of who and what God actually is, to see whether or not we can take it.
Right.
Right. There's all of these awful gospel songs. They sound good, but they're awful. Right. I can bear it. Right. If it's here, then that means that I can bear it. Right. And y'all know we don't teach that, right? I've talked about this idea that, there are actually some things in life that are more than you can bear. But what is the spiritual understanding of that? It's more than you can bear, because that's the opportunity for you to learn that you're not alone. Absolutely. That you get to ask for support and rely on somebody else. Yeah. Right? It's the beautiful thing. And I even use the idea when I love superhero movies. All of the greatest superheroes have to learn that lesson. Pick any movie you want, pick any hero you want, pick any story. They learn that they can't do it alone, no matter how powerful they are. Superman, Iron Man, you name them, right? Spider-Man, Batman, right? Or we also see through their stories the limitations. Batman is someone who's always trying to be a loner. And we see the limitations in that way of being. And even he has to concede and join the Justice League, right? So you are a superhero in your own right. And so if you love the Avengers, right, well, that's a team. Yes, they're individually
Great.
amazing, right? Badasses, if you will, right? But the Avengers, when they come together, so that's what the more than I can bear, that's what the spiritual lesson is, that there are literally things that are more than we can bear. And so, of course, this is superstition. It's born in ignorance. The nighttime of the soul. I love that phrase, right?
That is a nice way of saying the dark night of the soul.
Right.
And it's not saying that those things don't happen. It's just saying that the reality is that those things are not being done to you by God.
There is no power in the universe that tries or tempts us but our own ignorance. So what does this also mean? This also means that you got to let go of this idea of the devil is busy, right? This also means you got to let go of this idea of Satan doing something, right? What many people are calling the devil, it ain't nothing but the devil, it ain't nothing but Satan, is unawareness, right? Ignorance of the truth, right? It's superstition.
Right. Ignorance, not knowing the truth.
Right.
Not that you're stupid, right? It's just you don't know the truth.
Right. If you want support in healing that understanding even more, we brought this lesson forward again, a sermon series, Superstition Ain't the Way. It's from, I don't know, October. It goes way, way back, but you can find it in the playlist. It's an October sermon series, Superstition Ain't the Way, which taps into this a little more deeply. The universe withholds nothing from us because in withholding, it would withhold from itself. And we are some part of its purpose. Therefore, not only is there nothing in the universe that limits or restrains us, but the Spirit even seeks, urges, pushes against us to fulfill itself, right? So this is a lot of times what that divine discontent looks like. So a lot of times this is that as was put in the Matrix, the splinter in your mind, right? That thing that just, there's something you don't know what it is, but it's pulling you forward. Sometimes it's frustrating you, and you can't understand what it's all about. We should get a clear understanding of this. For a person is already defeated if they approach life with the morbid idea that there is some power ready to deny them or to inflict punishment upon them.
Yes.
Right.
Let's not use that we know that we've been conditioned to think it, but let's not use it as an excuse not to thrive in our lives.
Yeah.
Now that we know.
Yeah. And this sentence is actually really directly related to that question we had about the idea of no one can fail who is working in cooperation with the universe itself, right? Here he's saying a similar thing. A person is already defeated if they approach life with the morbid idea, essentially, that they're not one with God, right? With the morbid idea that not only that I'm not one with God, but the all that is, the creator of life, the universe, that holds all things in its place, that conceived of the universe and galaxies and brings them into being, could somehow deny me the all power. This is part of what the story of the Wizard of Oz was about, if y'all don't know. Right? It was a depiction of this type of God, the wizard, right? And so to brain, heart, and courage, in order to, you had to ask the great and powerful Oz for brains, heart, and courage, right? But it was with you already along, because the other thing, you realize that the Scarecrow, the Tin Men, and the Lion were just external projections of Dorothy, right? And then also, or inflict punishment upon them. And this is exactly what the great and powerful Oz represented. But what did we find? Right? That behind it was just a man behind a curtain that was scared himself. Every normal individual feels that there is something in the universe which, if they could get a hold of it, would straighten them out. This insistent and universal desire for self-expression, which every person feels, is proof that there is something, capital S something, that wants us to be successful. Furthermore, we could not experience such an urge if its fulfillment did not already exist for us in divine mind.
Yes. Take that in. If there's something that you've been wanting, desiring, feeling led, inspired, not from fear, not from the lack of it, to be, do, or have, this is what it's talking about.
Yeah.
It already exists. This kind of reminds me of Abraham. It's already in the vortex.
Yep.
It already exists.
Exactly.
All you got to do is move in the direction of it, step by step.
Yep. I'm reminded of Joel Goldsmith in The Infinite Way. You are the fulfillment of God, is what he writes. But you can affirm right now, I am the fulfillment of God. A Course of Love says you are the accomplished.
The accomplished.
Right? We could not experience such an urge if its fulfillment did not already exist. And that's the thing that we have to come into an understanding of. I am the fulfillment. That thing which is within me that is seeking expression, it is already accomplished.
Mm-hmm. And what was that? There was part of that question about, I can't remember the exact wording, about will eventually be all right.
Oh, yeah.
There was also a little bit of
sooner or later, all
things will be made well. That's a little bit of giving away the belief too, because all things are already well.
Exactly.
Not will be well.
Right.
In the mind of God, it's already accomplished.
Yes.
So if it's already accomplished, it's not sooner or later, it's just done.
Right. And so that's why we say when we pray from the realm of the answer. That's why I quote Emerson, that prayer is the contemplation of the facts of life from the highest point of view,
not
from this place of fulfillment.
Yes, from the place of fulfillment.
Yes. Lord have mercy.
And it might feel foreign to talk this way from the place of fulfillment, but that's where God speaks.
Yes.
From the place of fulfillment.
Yes.
If there's a desire within you that you've wanted or wanting, if there's something you want to be, do, or have, it's already done. It's speaking to you within you from the place of fulfillment. It's not to scare you that you can't do it. It's going to take 10,000 years to do. It's to say it's already done.
Yes. It is apparent that humanity has had the accumulative instinct from the beginning of our history. And Jesus did not denounce this acquisitive faculty if we use it in connection with the universal law. Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all these things shall be added unto you. That of course, is Matthew 6. Within this universal law is included the law of increase, the law of giving and receiving. There is inherent in humanity an inherent faculty which lays hold of what is its own, and every needed thing will be added. If we follow the law of righteous accumulation, we should banish forever the idea that humanity must be poor to be righteous. Ooh, Lord have mercy. See, and this is where then the false accusations, even around prosperity gospel as it relates to New Thought, come into being. But we should banish forever the idea that we must be poor to be righteous. Right? Shout out to our brother Julian Gordon, who wrote the book Rich and Righteous. Right? Because it's this understanding that to be spiritual doesn't mean that you have to live in poverty. And again, what did we just talk about? Poverty is the lack of any good thing.
Any good thing. So you can be poor in love and in any good thing.
If we believe that God cannot know poverty or any kind of lack, that opulence itself should be manifesting freely in our lives, what steps shall we take to bring abundance into the lives of those who are now experiencing poverty? How shall we make two trees grow where one grew before? To begin with, we are never seeing poverty, but the representation of an idea of lack, a symbol of lack, which has taken hold of our consciousness. Now, this is actually a powerful, deep, but yet New Thought 101 sentence, right? And why do I say that? I want to pull this back, because this is where we get stuck. Again, it takes me back to the two of the questions that we highlighted. See, we want to change something in our lives, but we have a thought in our minds that it's fixed. See, y'all like the idea of, I think a thought and I can manifest something. But you don't understand that everything that you see in the external, and particularly when you're talking about the unwanted, that it is only a representation of an idea. A representation of a thought that someone or yourself has kept thinking over time. Abraham says, it's beautiful. Belief is a thought that you keep thinking, and we know that then we can change our thoughts. We change our thoughts all the time around any number of things, right? So it's important to understand that anything you're seeing, I don't care how, going back to the question, how loud the noise is in your human experience, right? I don't care how big it may seem in your human experience, right? Florence Scovel Shinn writes, you walk up to the lion and the lion disappears. So it's a representation of an idea, and that's a good thing. Because ideas are changeable, right? Ideas are something that you don't have to fear. an idea of lack, a symbol of lack, which is simply taken hold in our consciousness. Poverty itself is not a divine reality. That's capitalized, divine, capital D, capital R. Since God cannot know it, and therefore it what? Can be changed. Lord have mercy. This is New Thought 101, right? Think a new thought. That's what we're talking about. Both prosperity and poverty are states of mind. If we desire to erase the thought of poverty, we must go back to the thought of prosperity. Here again is the answer to the question about the how, right? An affirmation of the allness of good, the source of which is God, right? This is what I talked about in that answer. You have to turn back to the source.
Consistently turn back.
We are confronted with the revealing truth that poverty is lack of knowledge of God. And again, when we use the word poverty, we're not talking about poor people, right? That's not what we're talking about here. We're not talking about socioeconomic status. There are many poor billionaires. And I know that you like to hear that, if you're not a billionaire. This is not an indictment on billionaires. It's just true. We are confronted with the revealing truth that poverty is a lack of knowledge of God. If we had complete realization of the allness of good and our oneness with God, we would automatically express abundance. And that is the opportunity, right? That is the opportunity that as you continue to delve and deepen your awareness of these teachings and continue to be willing to reveal and take a loving look at the unconscious that needs to be revealed and healed, and continue to do that, what begins to happen is an automatic experience and expression of abundance.
And you know that you've been doing it consistently when the external changes. But that's not the goal. The goal is the internal awareness, no matter whether the situation changes externally.
Exactly. All truth resolves itself into this self-evident fact that the universe must be a self-sustaining and self-perpetuating spiritual order. This is important, right? It's a cosmos, not a chaos. Cosmos indicating unity and union. Amply able to provide for its own needs and to adequately express its own inherent desires. Humanity is some part of this universe. Why then is humanity limited unless it be that we have contradicted the fundamental principle of self-existence and in ignorance of our true nature, repudiated the greater claim which we may have made upon the universe? Prosperity is a state of mind. Activity is also a state of mind. And the law of compensation is an invisible but infallible government of divine order. What is the law of compensation? Simply means that it's really talking about cause and effect, right? That what you put in, you receive, right? And it's invisible, but it's infallible. It always works, right? Some would call it karma, but and many times that's misunderstood. But it's true. Karma is infallible. The law of compensation is an invisible but infallible government of divine order. Karma does not mean bad things are going to happen to you. See, and that's why I say it's misunderstood. We talk about this often.
We talk about this all the
time.
time.
It's just the idea of the boomerang effect, right? As what you give, you receive. What you give in thought, you receive. What you give in time, you receive. What you give in treasure, you receive. And of course, what's behind that giving is what you're actually receiving, which you hear us say all the time, right? And so the receiving, not just the receiving, the whole experience is karma, right? It's not what I received is my karma.
No,
that's a misunderstanding.
Right. It's just law. It's just cause and effect.
Right.
And it's always operating. And it also means that if it's been operating and you don't like it, you can change it.
Exactly. And so this next sentence brings it very close to home. It is done unto us as we believe. That's the law of compensation. That's karma. But the belief is largely subjective, and we are all more or less marked by the grooves of experience, a large part of them being adverse. Again, I'm reminded in the Game of Life and How to Play It, Florence Scovel Shinn writes about this idea of we have records, we have a record player, we have records playing in our mind. Take that thing off the turntable and break it, right? Because that's what it is, right? We have these grooves, like grooves of a record in our experience, and many of them are adverse for a host of reasons. But all that matters is the point of power is in the present. So it's what record are we going to play now? I can talk about why that record is in my mind and what my ancestors did or what my grandparents did or what my parents did or did not do. All that. I could talk from that perspective, but then I'm just playing the same record because I'm bringing the past into the now. The point of power is in the present moment, in the now. And in this place, in this space, from this moment is where we begin to not only create new grooves, but operate from a place of the state of mind of prosperity. Those who wish to experience the supremacy of spiritual thought over apparent material resistance must claim and know in their own thought that there is a divine intelligence directing them. Notice how, again, Ernest Holmes is echoing everything that we've been saying and answering the previous questions. We are not struggling toward wealth then as such. Again, powerful, powerful. We could also add in this context, hustling, grinding, right? It would not make us happy. Happiness is an interior quality.
Imagine that
Right.
the hustle and the grind doesn't make us happy.
Happiness is an interior quality, a state of being, the result of knowing that in the long run, the divine will win. This is why I wrote the song. You win, right? The knowledge that we can trust the integrity of the universe. Our good will come to us in such measure as we ourselves measure it out in our own experience.
That's why I love the title of this text and this matter. It's up to you.
Yeah, there you go.
It keeps coming back to you, and not in a judgmental way, but in a way to empower yourself. Right? It's not, oh, if PY and PG say it. It's what do you think?
Yeah.
What do you want?
Right.
How do you want to live? How do you want to be?
Exactly. Right. Our job is to point you in the direction.
That's
and
it.
We're always going to point you in the direction. And where are we always pointing you? Within. As the Tao Te Ching says, that's where the world's treasure has always been. All that is in the universe is with us. Nothing is against us. And this is why I love to change the language of the famous scripture, if God be for us, who can be against us? I say, if God be in us, who or what can be against us? Right? Nothing is against us. Each of us has access immediately in our own consciousness to that absolute unconditioned presence which molds and makes things out of itself, by itself, directly becoming the thing it makes. This is also one of the reasons why we're highlighting the Stay Woke series, the path of self-realization, because that's what that series is teaching, the reality that you already have it within you. You can access that. And that's what all the greatest teachers that have ever existed have ever been saying.
And if they're telling you got to go through them to get some knowledge, you gotta do whatever they say to get.
Right, you got to wear certain things.
You got whatever.
Right.
Please leave. Exit the building immediately. Because it can't be that way. That's making God human.
Yep.
God doesn't work like that.
The good which we desire passes out of it being this thing we call God, as though it came from the very hand of God, which it does. But even God cannot give us anything unless we are in mental condition to receive the gift.
Write
God
that
can only do
down.
for us what it can do through us. And it can only do through us what we are in full acceptance and allowance of.
Right. And maybe you thought you were in acceptance and allowance of it, but if you examine a little closer, there is still some hesitation. There might still be some belief, I got to work harder to get it. There might still be some belief that I'm not worthy of it. And this is telling you those ideas you've got to let go of, and acceptance is what we're after, which is basically what Abraham says, allowing.
The art of allowing. That's the teaching of Abraham, right?
It's just allowing it.
Right. And so that's the practice that we're really learning, right? Because God, being love itself, does not force. It does not push.
It couldn't. It wouldn't.
That would be the antithesis of love. The law cannot do anything for us unless it can do it through us.
Right.
We live in the midst of eternal good, but it can only be to us what we believe it to be. Again, there's the principle. It is done unto us as we believe. If you look at many of the stories written about the healings of Jesus, he actually asked the question, right? Do you believe you can be healed? Do you believe that you can be made whole? And it's like, oh, they believe. Okay, cool. It is done.
It's done.
Right? Because Jesus also said, it is not by my might, it's not by my power. It is the Father within me that does the work. Apart from the Father, I can do nothing.
Right, and it's always been so interesting to me that people who study that in traditional Christianity forget that. They just like, oh, it's just Jesus.
Jesus ain't the power.
And he said it himself.
Right.
But they keep washing over that, partly because then it gives Jesus all the power and they ain't got to have none. They don't have to make the choices. And what he said out of his own mouth, it is not I.
Right.
He wasn't being humble. He was being honest.
Right. He was telling the disciples how it works.
Yes. Oh, it's not. Oh, I'm not that great. Yeah, I'm great, but it's not me.
Right.
It's what's within me,
Exactly.
and it's the same thing in you.
Right. Which is why he also said, "Greater works than these
Greater
will
works
you
than
do
these.
also." Right. We stand at the mouth of the river, but we must let down our own bucket if we wish it filled with the pure waters of reality, capital R. It is not enough that the spiritual substance is everywhere around us and in us. And as PY said, this is why the title of this book and the series is It's Up to You. Yes, and I think many people oftentimes like to talk about and pontificate and intelligently describe the truth of what God is, and it is everywhere present and is eternal good and wonderful. But when are you going to stand at the mouth of the river and put your own bucket down, which is your life itself?
Yes.
And accept, allow, permit. Again, that's why I said I affirm every day. Today in consciousness, I lift up my cup of acceptance to the divine bounty, to this divine river, which is flowing, always flowing.
Always flowing.
Today, my cup is filled and running over because the law is my shepherd. I shall not want. There were thousands in the crowd through which Jesus passed, yet only one woman, this is of course going to the story of the woman with the issue of blood, she who touched the hem of his garment received healing. The woman was eager for the blessing and believed she would receive it. Unless we consciously open our minds and recognize our oneness with omnipresent substance, we shall appropriate none of it. The knowledge that God wants us to live fully, the certainty that there is no force to keep our good from us, the assurance that abundance is ours for the asking, which avail us nothing unless we use that knowledge.
Right. You got to use this stuff to make it real for you.
Exactly.
You got to practice these
Right.
ideas,
Right.
not just listen to them or read them and put the book on a shelf like, oh yeah, I've studied this book. You got to make it true in your life.
Exactly. I'm going to read a couple more paragraphs. I'm looking at the time, and then we'll close and talk about our homework. Those who deny the possibility of divine guidance have not thought the matter through to its final conclusion. The universe would be incomplete if humanity were not expressed.
If you were incomplete, the universe would be incomplete.
That principle which so lavishly distributes the heavenly bodies, this is why I love lavishness. PY and I together, we've been talking about and reflecting and focusing on the lavishness of life. That principle which so lavishly distributes the heavenly bodies, peopling the infinite reaches of space with personifications of itself, must have both the intelligence and the ability to provide for humanity's needs.
Well, think about that. If it can create all that is we see and don't see, know and don't know, then can't it just put something in your bank account? Can all your needs be met too?
How can we deny ourselves the privilege of its personal attention? Some will say that such an infinite presence cannot be personal. Here again, this attitude of mine has not contemplated the full measure of reality, capital R. The spirit personifies in and through everything, the rose, the blade of grass, the mineral, animal, and human kingdoms. Each and all are specific demonstrations of the ability and desire of universal mind to find concrete expression.
That's why you can look at yourself and say, God looks good as me.
Yes.
That's why you can look and say there are no flaws in me.
Yes.
That I am not a mistake.
Yes.
It's not just words that we're sharing with you. This is the reality, capital R.
Yes.
This is how you walk through life. God looks good as me. Just like it looks good as the flowers that you appreciate, or the sunset or the sunrise. We've been seeing some beautiful ones. It looks good as you as well.
It is a mistake to suppose that some things are spiritual while others are material, and that a sharp line can be drawn between spirit and matter. There is no variation in the spiritual principle which underlies and governs all expression. Matter is spirit and form. Oh, this reminds us of our sermon series last month. Yes, yes. Conditions, spirit in many forms. The best business methods evolved for the handling of affairs are the ones nearest truth. I love this because now we're getting into the practical and the business methods, but we could also apply this to government and the ways that things can work in the world if we allow them.
When it's working, that's when you know the truest nature of God is operating.
Yes. All legitimate business constructively handled is in accord with truth. The Spirit expresses itself in everything, since God is all in all, and there is no dividing line between form and substance. While we know that our business is an activity of the Spirit working through us, we shall be viewing our business in the right light. When we are certain that the things in which we are interested are constructive, we should go ahead with complete assurance of success. The only power there is with us, for there is no power opposed to the truth. My.
Whew. I love this chapter.
Absolutely. I do as well. This text is powerful, y'all. I trust that we have illuminated and opened your hearts and minds in new and more powerful ways as we continue to deepen our awareness. So your assignment for this week is to read all of chapter 2. If you find at the end of chapter 2 you want to move ahead, stop. Do not pass go. Stop. Do not read the next chapter. If you feel that you want to keep going, that's your cue to go back to the beginning of the chapter and reread chapter 2 again.
If you want to keep going, deepen your awareness of what you just read.
Absolutely. Now, what we are also doing, there will be an email that goes out tomorrow, which reviews what we've studied today. It will also give you reflection questions, so you can use those reflection questions. So if you've read the chapter, take those reflection questions and answer them to deepen your experience and deepen your awareness. So I'll do the same thing I did last week. What is your assignment? What is your reading assignment? Let me know. Put it in the comments so that we know that you're clear about what your assignment is. And we know that you're clear not to move forward. You only have to read this one chapter. You can just read it once, right? Take whatever time it needs. You can break it up into chunks, whatever that looks like for you based on your schedule, because of course we do everything in love and with ease. I'm just looking, how do I get the text? The text is available. You can purchase it via Amazon, the digital format or the print format, and you can get it right away. That's where the text is available. We'll also share it in the email. It's in the Friday email. If you're on our mailing list, then you can do that. If you're someone saying that you're not getting those emails, then I encourage you to, I'll put it back up on the screen, but I encourage you to use this information here. Text WELCOME to 347-472-1078 and enter your information, and you'll be automatically added to the mailing list.
Yeah, and also check your spam folder just in case. Sometimes they end up there.
Absolutely. And so finally, it is time for giving. And of course, we always say each week that we give what feels good. And as we give, we receive. I was thinking about something today. It's something that I shared in a message many years ago, the art of receiving. And what I said in that sermon is that the best givers are the best receivers. Right? And what does that mean? See, it's interesting because when we think about giving, we have been taught to think of giving as being a nice and noble or kind thing to do. But giving is operating according to spiritual law. Giving is operating according to the law of circulation. So is receiving. Receiving is operating according to spiritual law. Receiving is operating in the flow of how it works. So the best givers are the best receivers. And so it's interesting that for many of us, we may need to learn to tap into giving, giving specifically. We talk about here, and I've talked about in past sermons, the 3 pillars of giving, right? Giving of our time, talent, and treasure that we must give to ourselves. We must give to God. We must give to others, right? And so understanding that, then we also have to be in the consciousness of receptivity. And many of you may have been giving, and I want to say this is sort of an asterisk. If you've been, Catherine Ponder calls it overgiving, right? The sacrificing, right? Many people don't like to give because you're resentful because you've been giving what belonged to you, right? So when we say give, we're not talking about that. We're also not talking about being stingy, right? Some people are undergiving. But when we're talking about giving in the way that giving works, that's easy and effortlessly and loving, the other thing that we find is that as many of you are givers, but you may not be putting the focus of your attention then on receiving. Now, we do that unconsciously. We exhale and we immediately inhale. Well, that's the best givers are the best receivers. That's the same opportunity, right? That you actually tap into the motion, tap into the posture of receiving because you recognize how it works. And you look to receive, you expect to receive. But here's the other thing. Some of us are pushing away that which we're receiving. Some of us can't receive compliments. Some of us, if somebody wants to give you a gift, you're like, oh, no, I don't need that. I'm okay. Oh, some of us, somebody wants to just treat you to lunch or to dinner. Oh, no, 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 no. And we may not realize where we're saying no to life. In another sermon, I highlighted Shonda Rhimes' book, The Year of Yes. And that's one of the powerful inspirations behind that book is the recognition that she'd been saying no to life. Interestingly enough, we all know that Shonda Rhimes is incredibly wealthy, but she was experiencing poverty. Perfect example of what we were just talking about. And so when we think about that, we affirm something every week. And PY, you were telling me something interesting that you just learned about this phrase that we affirm, that affirmation that comes to us from Reverend Ike.
Yes, I was watching and listening to a clip of Reverend Ike, and he was talking about the one word he doesn't say anymore, and it was all the money I spend. He doesn't say that.
Right.
And then he said, you know what? I'm changing. I'm no longer affirming all the money I use. It's now all the money I circulate.
Yes.
Returns to me.
Yes. And so we deepen our awareness, and it's a beautiful thing when we get to do that. So we definitely don't spend money. We don't affirm that here, right? We make use of it, and we have been affirming that. We've been affirming that for many, 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 many years, right? And so now we're going to deepen that by affirming all the money that I circulate.
All the money that I circulate.
Returns to me multiplied.
Returns to me multiplied.
In a never-ending cycle.
In a never-ending cycle.
Of increase.
Of increase.
And enjoyment.
And enjoyment.
To that we say amen.
Amen.
Ashe.
Ashe.
And so it is.
And so it is. Thank you, Reverend Ike.
Yes. Who just celebrated a birthday recently in consciousness. And so we send love. We send love and are always grateful for one of our elders, one of our teachers.
I love that he was willing to grow and deepen in his awareness of what he thought he knew and how to amplify it.
Absolutely.
How to up-level it.
Absolutely. And so we are at the end of our service today. It has been wonderful and it's been powerful. We look forward to your questions. Again, if you have questions this week, email truthsunday@celebrationsc.org. As you see, we incorporate those questions, and you see how also many times the questions are answered within the reading as we deepen. So it's beautiful as the questions are coming up. It's like the answer is already there. The need is already supplied. And so it's wonderful.
Please ask your questions.
Yes.
We can't answer what we are not asked. Same thing in the universe.
So we love and appreciate you. Please, again, continue to, if you're not giving today, if you're going to give later on this week, by all means, please do that. And we look forward to you joining us for the Momentum Prayer Call on Wednesday morning. And then we will be together again next Sunday as we tap into week 3, chapter 3 of It's Up to You. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Bye for now.
Bye for now.